What truly sets him apart, though, is his command of the whistle register, the highest range of the human voice. This is the territory where singers like Mariah Carey operate, but it's extremely rare for a male vocalist to access it with both control and musicality. Dimash doesn't just hit those notes, he places them precisely, often using them as emotional peaks rather than gimmicks. When he reaches those extreme highs, it doesn't feel like a trick, it feels intentional, like the climax of a carefully built musical arc. Another critical detail is how he connects these extremes.
I'm 23 years old. 25 years old. Really old. It's not 18. Thank you. Where is my 18 years? When I'm singing it, I'm single. I'm 22. I'm not 25. Very old.
Unlike so many modern pop icons who heavily rely on studio magic and post-production to sound good, Dimash's artistry is built on a rock-solid foundation of nearly 2 decades of intense, rigorous academic training. He is a rare breed of performer who has managed to master both the strict rules of classical music and the fluid, evolving dynamics of contemporary styles. His formal journey actually started way back in 1999, with early piano and vocal training at the Aktobe Music College's children's studio, running alongside his general educational studies at Gymnasium No. 32 throughout the 2000s. He was always looking for ways to expand his theatrical toolkit, even taking a specialized Broadway masterclass in 2009 to study musical theater techniques. The real turning point in his technical vocal development came in 2014, when he graduated from the Ahmet Zhubanov Aktobe Music College with a diploma in classical music, specializing specifically in the demanding art of bel canto singing. But he didn't stop at classical music. Knowing he wanted to push his own boundaries, he transitioned to the Kazakh National University of Arts, or KazNUA, in Astana. There, he earned his bachelor's degree in 2018, majoring in contemporary voice, which allowed him to dive deep into jazz, pop, and modern vocal styling.
Will your parents attend your concert? Yeah, we hope so. We miss them very much. And they fly to Shenzhen. Yes, correctly? Yeah, good. Bless you.
Kisses, you are very, very handsome. Despite being treated with near-religious devotion by millions, Dimash operates with a profound, almost jarring modesty. He views himself not as a monument to his own talent, but as a vessel for his culture. He recently noted, "For the first time in my career, I allowed cameras to capture what had always remained between me, my family, and my team. The preparation, the backstage moments, the pressure, the doubts. Pulling back the curtain was a massive step for someone so private, but it was done to document the reality of the work, not to manufacture drama." This artistic integrity dictates his every interaction with the world. He sings in dozens of languages, Mandarin, Italian, French, Turkish, as a conscious effort to honor the heritage of his global listeners. But no matter where he is, whether in New York, Beijing, or London, he greets his audience with a traditional bow. He places the Kazakh dombra, a traditional lute, at the emotional center of his sets. He refuses to ever forget the soil he came from, ensuring that every stage he graces becomes a platform for his heritage. And this leads to the ultimate question: what drives a person who has already achieved peak vocal mastery? When you have the voice of a generation, what do you use it for? For Dimash, the motivation is distinctly humanitarian.
For Dimash, the demanding nature of his global career which frequently keeps him away from his own parents and loved ones for weeks at a time, means that finding a partner requires careful timing and a profound, lifelong connection. His dedication to family was recently highlighted when he emotionally performed at his younger sister Raushan's wedding in late 2025. For now, it is clear that Dimash is dedicating his current chapter to his art, his humanitarian duties, and his audience, waiting for the right moment to build a family of his own. Conclusion. The narrative of Dimash Kudaibergen in 2026 is one of expansive growth. Whether he is producing international television, advocating for human rights on a United Nations platform, inspiring ecological and educational charity worldwide, or thoughtfully navigating the pressures of his personal life, he continues to operate with a rare blend of immense ambition and profound humility.
Unapologetic authenticity, Dimash refuses to dilute his heritage to become a standard American pop star. He sings in Kazakh, Russian, Mandarin, French, and English, but his heart remains firmly planted in the Kazakh steppe. He views his music as a cultural code, frequently incorporating the traditional dombra into his sets. Instead of conforming to the West, he requires the West to come to him. Because of this, thousands of fans globally are now learning the Kazakh language just to understand his lyrics. The PR disconnect. The Western celebrity ecosystem thrives on constant viral moments, reality TV drama, and aggressive marketing. Dimash operates largely through his independent family-run management. He leads a private, culturally respectful lifestyle that completely bypasses Western tabloid culture, meaning he doesn't play the fame game the way Western media expects, an empire built outside the machine. Ultimately, the lack of mainstream top 40 radio play in the West is not a failure of Dimash's talent, nor is it a deliberate boycott. It is simply a mismatch of philosophies. The Western industry sells a packaged, quick-hit product. Dimash delivers a sprawling, spiritual art. But here is the most heartwarming truth: he doesn't need the Western mainstream. Dimash has proven that an artist can build a global empire without compromising their roots. He sells out massive arenas from London's Wembley to New York's Barclays Center, filling seats with fans from over 60 different countries who will fly across the globe just to hear him breathe life into a microphone. He has completely dismantled the idea that an artist needs a major US record label to be a global icon. When Dimash sings, linguistic barriers vanish. He proves that if you sing with enough soul, you don't need to sing in English for the world to understand you. He is rewriting the rules of global stardom, reminding us all that true art isn't about fitting into a box. It's about shattering it entirely.
When Dimash sings in the whistle register, like the legendary climax of Unforgettable Day, he isn't just squeaking out a note, he's placing it with deadly precision, adding vibrato, and holding it out with breath support that leaves professional opera singers speechless. He also utilizes rock techniques, like twang, which gives his voice that piercing, brassy edge that allows it to cut through a massive orchestra without a microphone. He is essentially 5 different singers trapped in one body: a bass, a pop tenor, a rock frontman, a classical countertenor, and a soprano. Act 4, the cultural ambassador. But boiling Dimash down to just his vocal acrobatics is missing the point of why millions of people adore him. His true magic lies in his emotional storytelling and his fierce dedication to his roots. Dimash sings in over a dozen languages, including English, French, Italian, Spanish, and Mandarin. But no matter where he goes in the world, whether he is selling out the Barclays Center in New York or performing in front of 30,000 people in Europe, he always brings Kazakhstan with him, like a global icon and more like a grateful friend. As his empire grew, so did his artistry. When he released his debut album ID in 2019, he didn't just chase radio hits, he masterfully blended ultra-modern global pop sounds with his deep Kazakh cultural roots. Tracks like Screaming, Love is Like a Dream, and Golden didn't just showcase his insane vocal range, they proved his evolution as a complete musician. You know, Dimash actually gave a rare insight into how his mind works when creating these tracks. He explained that his process is incredibly melody-driven. I make the music first, right? And then a lyric writer writes the lyrics for me, and after that I start working on the production. He's also incredibly loyal, never taking all the credit for himself. He always highlights his close friend and creative brother, Erlan Bekchurin, the mastermind arranger in Kazakhstan, who helps translate the complex symphonic sounds inside Dimash's head into absolute reality.
Будет дурить. Ты понимаешь, в чем прикол? Какой ловкий!
Teşekkür.
Technique beyond human standards. A massive vocal range means nothing without control. And this is where Dimash separates himself from almost everybody else on Earth. He wasn't just naturally gifted, he was trained. Dimash grew up in Kazakhstan in a deeply musical family. His parents were singers, performers, and artists. Music wasn't just entertainment around him, it was discipline. From a young age, he studied classical vocal techniques, especially bel canto, the same traditional style used in opera training. And that foundation changed everything, because Dimash didn't just learn how to sing loudly or hit high notes. He learned breath control, resonance, placement, dynamics, tone shaping. He learned how to treat the human voice like an instrument. And once he mastered classical technique, he started blending it with literally everything else. Opera, pop, rock, folk music, traditional Kazakh music, R&B, even elements of metal. Most singers stay inside one lane because switching styles is dangerous. Different genres require different vocal approaches. Done incorrectly, it can destroy your voice.
吃不到，
不吐，
不多，
不到边儿。
不大表，吃不到不多不大表。
Oh, very good. You're very.
Really, I don't need this. Because I'm with fans together.
Many singers might be able to demonstrate a wide range in isolation, hitting a low note here, a high note there. But Dimash integrates the entire spectrum into actual songs. He'll move from a deep, almost whisper-like low note to a soaring high note within a single phrase, maintaining pitch accuracy, tone quality, and emotional expression throughout. There's also a technical discipline behind this. His control over breath support, resonance placement, and vowel shaping allows him to avoid strain even when operating at the edges of human vocal capability. That's why his voice doesn't sound forced or unstable, even when he's navigating extreme registers. It's not just range, it's range with control, consistency, and musical intention. And maybe the most important part, he doesn't use his range just to impress. He uses it to tell a story. The low notes create intimacy or tension. The mid-range carries emotion, and the high notes deliver release or transcendence. That's why when people hear Dimash, they don't just think, that's a big range. They feel like they've experienced something much larger, almost like listening to an entire choir condensed into a single voice. Multilingual performances. When people talk about Dimash Kudaibergen, his multilingual ability is often mentioned, but it's usually understated. This isn't just a singer memorizing lyrics phonetically. It's a deliberate artistic choice that reflects both technical discipline and cultural respect.
This dual-track education is exactly the secret behind his unbelievable sound. It gave him the ironclad breath control and discipline of an opera singer, perfectly combined with the stylistic freedom and emotional flexibility needed to dominate modern genres. What is truly remarkable is that even as his international fame absolutely exploded and his touring schedule packed up, Dimash never let his academic progress slip to the back burner. In 2020, he earned his master's degree in composition from KazNUA. He didn't just pass, he defended his thesis, appropriately titled Personal Image of Traditional Music, with a flawless, perfect score of 100 points. The research he did there, focusing on how an artist crafts a modern stage image while simultaneously preserving deep, traditional cultural values, is essentially the academic blueprint for his entire career. His dedication to the scholarly side of music has only continued to grow. In 2022, he was awarded the highly prestigious International Bolshak Scholarship Grant to pursue his doctoral research, elevating him to a PhD candidate in musicology. Furthermore, his impact has expanded beyond just the music world. By 2025, his incredible ongoing humanitarian efforts were recognized when he was awarded an honorary professorship at the Kazakh National Medical University. It all goes to show that the staggering success of Dimash isn't some manufactured accident. It is the direct result of relentless study, deep intellectual curiosity, and a lifetime of unwavering commitment to both his craft and his culture. If you want to understand how Dimash became a global powerhouse, you have to look at the series of high-stakes competitions that completely validated his technical skills.
好欢乐，好欢乐，找清新有没有？居然梁老师都嗨起来了，今天。哦哇！
He serves as a global ambassador for the International Organization for Migration. He uses his massive platform for heavy humanitarian work, like visiting Rohingya refugee cultural centers in Bangladesh to bring global eyes to forgotten crises. He views music as a diplomatic tool. His ultimate goal isn't the accumulation of Western music chart records. It is the unification of distinct cultures under a shared emotional language. Dimash Kudaibergen stands as a testament that you can reach the absolute pinnacle of global success without sacrificing your soul, your privacy, or your culture. He proves that the true motivation isn't the applause, but the message left behind when the microphone is turned off. If this story shifted your perspective, send it to someone who needs to hear it.
He frequently performs traditional Kazakh folk songs, like Daididao, backed by a full orchestra of traditional instruments. Before Dimash, how many people outside of Central Asia knew what a domra was? He single-handedly sparked a global interest in Kazakh culture, language, and history. He is, quite literally, his country's greatest cultural ambassador. And the fans? The deers are a force of nature. They don't just stream his music, they learn the Kazakh language to sing along with him. They travel across oceans to see him live. They engage in massive charitable campaigns in his name.
Арманымның шегі жоқ, бірақ та осы армандарымның ең бастысына айта кетсек осы. Осы менің арманымда халқымның көңілі жай, білімге бай болуын қалаймын да, және де осы өскен соң осы қазағыма осы ықпал еткізетіндей үлесімді осы қазағыма осы жақсы жағына үлесін қосатын азамат болу ғой менің ең басты арманым.
Even when the world ground to a halt during the pandemic, Dimash's creative engine didn't slow down. In 2021, he launched the Dimash Digital Show, a massive virtual concert experience that united fans from over 100 countries in a single night. He kept pushing boundaries, collaborating with international names and dropping hit singles like the high-energy Be With Me and the soaring Fly Away. Right now, his Stranger World Tour has turned his live shows into full-blown theatrical masterpieces. These aren't just concerts. They are sweeping emotional experiences featuring full orchestral arrangements, breathtaking stage designs, and that unmistakable, ethereal voice ringing out across Europe, Asia, and North America. Just recently, he celebrated his birthday with his closest supporters in Kazakhstan, treating them to an emotional live performance of the traditional song, Tawi Shind, in the mountains. Immediately following that, the entire country experienced the cinematic premiere of his solo concert film, Dimash, Stranger, a monumental achievement for an artist of his generation. Yet, despite having the world at his feet, the man behind the microphone lives a surprisingly quiet, grounded life.
It all sounds natural. His transitions are so smooth that you almost don't notice how technically insane they are. Chest voice into mixed voice into head voice into whistle register. No cracks, no hesitation, no panic, just control. And if you've ever watched vocal coaches react to Dimash online, you'll notice something funny. At first, they try to analyze him professionally. Then eventually, they just start laughing in disbelief. because even experts struggle to explain what he's doing in real time. Reason number 3. The emotion. Now here's the thing that truly separates greatness from talent. There are singers with range, there are singers with technique, but very few artists can make you feel something. Dimash can. And that's why millions of people around the world became obsessed with his performances even when they didn't understand a single word he was singing. Because emotion doesn't need translation. He performs in more than a dozen languages including Kazakh, English, Mandarin, Russian, French, Italian, and Spanish. But whether he's singing about heartbreak, loss, hope, or triumph, the emotion reaches you instantly. There's a performance quality to Dimash that feels almost theatrical. He doesn't just sing songs, he lives inside them. You can see it in his expressions, his breathing, the tension in his body, the silence between notes.
When he sings in Mandarin, like during his breakout on Singer 2017 in China, native listeners often point out how natural his pronunciation feels. Mandarin is a tonal language, meaning pitch changes can alter word meaning entirely. So for a vocalist already navigating complex melodies, this adds another layer of difficulty. Yet Dimash manages to balance linguistic accuracy with musical expression. In French and Italian, which are deeply tied to classical and operatic traditions, he adapts his tone and phrasing to match stylistic expectations. You'll hear a more rounded vowel placement, smoother legato lines, and a phrasing style that aligns with Western classical techniques. It's not just singing in the language, it's singing in the style that belongs to that language. When he performs in Russian or Kazakh, there's a noticeable emotional authenticity. These are languages closer to his cultural roots, and his delivery often carries a deeper narrative weight. The articulation, the emotional phrasing, it all feels more intimate, almost like he's not just performing but reliving something. English performances are another interesting case.
His rise wasn't an overnight viral moment. It was a steady, calculated domination of the competitive music circuit. It actually started when he was just 6 years old, taking home the top prize at the Einaleyan National Piano Contest. But it was his shift to vocal competitions in his teenage years that truly signaled to everyone that they were looking at a future global soloist. Between 2010 and 2015, Dimash went on an absolute tear, achieving a winning streak that was completely unprecedented in his region. He kicked it off by winning the Sonorous Voices of Baikonur in 2010. Then in 2012, he took on Jas Kanat, a grueling 3-day national competition. He didn't just win. He completely shattered expectations by earning a flawless 180 out of 180 points from the jury, a perfect score that had never been seen before in the history of the contest. That massive domestic victory essentially acted as a launchpad for his international success. He quickly followed it up by taking first prize at the Oriental Bazaar in Ukraine in 2012, and then secured the Grand Prix at the Make in Asia Festival in Kyrgyzstan in 2013. However, the absolute definitive turning point for him across the post-Soviet space happened in 2015. He entered the highly prestigious Slaviansky Bazaar in Vitebsk, Belarus, and once again walked away with the Grand Prix. That specific victory was monumental. It gave him so much leverage and industry respect that when the state-run Astana Opera formally invited him to join them as an opera singer, he actually had the power to decline. Instead of taking the safe traditional route, he chose to carve his own path. Dimash has cultivated a fandom built on respect, peace, and cross-cultural unity. Conclusion: the legacy in motion. At the end of the day, technique can only take you so far. There are plenty of singers with great range who never connect with an audience. What makes Dimash Kudaibergen a once-in-a-century artist is his soul. When he sings, you don't just hear notes, you hear pain, triumph, longing, and love. He doesn't use his vocal tricks just to show off, though, let's be honest, it is incredibly fun when he does. He uses that massive toolkit to paint emotional landscapes that transcend language barriers. You don't need to speak Kazakh or French or Mandarin to understand exactly what he is feeling. Dimash Kudaibergen is a reminder of the limitless potential of the human instrument. He is the bridge between classical discipline and modern spectacle. And the most exciting part, he is still young. His voice is still maturing. We are watching a legend in real time, and he's only just getting started. What is your favorite Dimash performance? Which song completely blew your mind the first time you heard it? Let me know down in the comments below.
Oh,
He chooses to stay close to his roots, living mostly in Kazakhstan and traveling to Russia or China only when his grueling schedule demands it, to make sure no fan feels left out, and he's constantly studying more languages. His offstage life is defined by a level of discipline that would break most people. To keep his 6-octave range pristine, he completely avoids alcohol and smoking, follows a strict vocal care regimen, and maintains his high-energy stamina through martial arts, dance training, and swimming. You will never see Dimash partying in Hollywood or getting tangled up in messy celebrity feuds. His focus is entirely locked onto artistic purity, family values, and his spirituality. Of course, there is one burning question that fans all over the world can't stop whispering about. Does Dimash have a girlfriend? While the internet is always swirling with romance rumors, Dimash protects his private life fiercely. He has never confirmed a single relationship rumor, choosing instead to let his music be the grand, romantic statement he shares with the world. While the world constantly clamors to know the secrets of his heart, Dimash has always quietly reminded us that, for now, his heart belongs entirely to his music and his fans. Yet underneath the sweeping scale of his global life, he carries the same simple, beautiful dreams as anyone else, openly sharing that he does hope to marry and build a family of his own someday. In 2021, a viral photo briefly set the internet ablaze with speculation about a mystery woman in his life, but it was quickly debunked as nothing more than tabloid chatter. His absolute commitment to keeping his personal life safely out of the spotlight has only increased the profound intrigue surrounding him. For now, it seems the closest thing to a true partner in his life is the microphone itself. That fierce protection of his inner world extends directly to his financial and professional choices as well. As of 2025 into 2026, industry experts estimate Dimash's net worth to sit comfortably between $5 and $8 million, fueled by a massive web of income streams, including global stadium tours, physical and digital album sales, heavy streaming revenue, high-profile TV judging roles, and major brand endorsements across Asia. Yet, wealth has never been the anchor of his soul. He has routinely turned down staggeringly lucrative, commercialized offers that would compromise his artistic integrity, stubbornly refusing to chase fleeting radio trends just for a quick paycheck. His true value isn't measured in millions, but in the priceless cultural bridge he builds every time he steps onto a stage. He stands as a towering cultural ambassador for Kazakhstan, a shining youth icon for aspiring musicians worldwide, and a literal thread connecting East and West. From a shy boy in Aktabi with a massive dream to a historic figure in global music, his journey is nothing short of deeply cinematic. His story teaches us that raw, God-given talent is merely the starting line. What elevates Dimash into a class of his own is an uncompromising dedication to his craft, an unshakable humility in the face of blinding success, and the quiet courage to walk a path that few dare to tread. In an era defined by fleeting, algorithm-driven viral fame, Dimash Kudaibergen is building something entirely timeless, a legacy defined not just by chart-topping hits, but by profound moments that permanently move the human soul. He once beautifully captured his own life's mission, saying that he didn't become an international singer to chase commercial gain, but to share his country's history, traditional culture, and messages of love and peace with a global audience. As he so profoundly put it, "I don't want to be just famous. I want to be useful. I want to connect people through music." And perhaps that is the ultimate secret behind the power of his voice. It isn't just heard, it is deeply, physically felt. So whether you are a lifelong deer who has followed every step of this journey, or someone sitting in the quiet awe of just discovering him today, know this: when Dimash sings, he isn't just performing for a crowd. He is reaching deep inside and handing you a piece of his very soul. And in today's world, that might just be the rarest, most beautiful gift of all.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Wow, 我也想要。
What's this? What's this?
Sometimes he barely moves on stage and still completely dominates the room. That level of emotional storytelling is rare because it requires vulnerability, and despite all the unbelievable technical ability, Dimash never feels robotic. That's important. A lot of technically gifted singers become too perfect. Their performances feel cold, calculated. Dimash avoids that trap. Even during the craziest vocal moments, there's still humanity underneath it all. That's why audiences cry during his performances, not because he sings high, but because he makes people feel something real. Reason number 4, the live performances. In today's music industry, technology can hide almost anything. Auto-tune, pitch correction, lip syncing, heavy backing tracks. Modern production can make average singers sound incredible, but Dimash belongs to a different category entirely, because his live performances are often even more impressive than the studio versions. That's almost unheard of.
While many international artists struggle to fully connect in English due to accent or phrasing limitations, Dimash maintains clarity while still preserving his vocal identity. He doesn't flatten his style to fit the language. Instead, he adapts the language to fit his musicality. What's happening behind the scenes is just as important. Singing in multiple languages at this level requires precise phonetic control, understanding subtle sound differences, adaptable resonance placement, since different languages favor different mouth and throat shapes, cultural sensitivity, knowing how a song is meant to feel in its original context. And here's the key point: he doesn't treat languages as a gimmick. Each one becomes a different emotional palette. A song in Italian might feel grand and operatic, while a Mandarin ballad feels delicate and poetic, and a Kazakh piece feels deeply rooted and soulful. That's why his multilingual performances don't come across as "look how many languages I can sing in." Instead, it feels like he's crossing cultural boundaries in real time, reshaping his voice to meet each language where it lives.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know.
There are videos online where you can literally watch audience members stare at each other in confusion after he hits certain notes. Like they're asking, did that actually just happen? And the craziest part, he keeps doing it repeatedly, night after night, concert after concert. One of the biggest reasons his performances spread globally was because reaction channels couldn't believe what they were hearing. Professional musicians, opera singers, voice teachers, producers, all stunned, not because of gimmicks, not because of stage effects, because of the voice. Pure raw ability still has the power to shock people, and Dimash reminds the world of that every time he steps onto a stage. Reason number 5, representing Kazakhstan to the world. One of the most admirable things about Dimash is that despite becoming an international sensation, he never abandoned his roots. He proudly represents Kazakhstan everywhere he goes. Through his music, fashion, instruments, and performances, he constantly introduces global audiences to Kazakh culture. That matters, because most global stars eventually reshape themselves to fit Western expectations. Dimash didn't. He brought his culture with him. He performs traditional elements alongside modern music. He plays the dombra, a traditional Kazakh instrument, and often incorporates national identity into massive international performances. In many ways, he became more than just a singer. He became a cultural ambassador, and for millions of people around the world, Dimash was actually their first introduction to Kazakhstan itself. That's impact. Reason number 6, the fearlessness. Most artists eventually become trapped by expectations. They find a formula that works, and they repeat it forever. Dimash refuses to do that. His songs are unpredictable. His performances are risky, and sometimes they're outright insane. He attempts vocal passages that many singers wouldn't even dare try privately in a rehearsal room, because failure at that level would be embarrassing. But Dimash embraces the challenge. That fearlessness is part of what makes watching him so exciting. You genuinely don't know what he's about to do next, and when artists stop being afraid of limitations, history usually gets made. Final thoughts. There are legends in music. There are icons. There are technically gifted singers. And then, there are rare people who completely redefine what humans believe is possible. Dimash Kudaibergen belongs in that category. He isn't just a vocalist. He's proof that the human voice still has unexplored territory. A once-in-a-lifetime performer who combined impossible range, elite technique, emotional storytelling, cultural pride, and fearless artistry into one extraordinary career. And maybe the craziest part of all, he's still going, still evolving, still experimenting, still pushing the boundaries further. Years from now, people will probably look back at Dimash the same way people once looked at Mozart, Freddie Mercury, Whitney Houston, or Luciano Pavarotti. Not just as entertainers, but as phenomena, because singers come and go. But voices like this? They happen once in a generation.
So cute.
He likes you.
God bless you.
He is 1 year.
He decided to pioneer a completely new, neoclassical crossover style, seamlessly blending his deep Kazakh folk roots with modern, global pop sensibilities. The global breakthrough, Singer 2017 in the Silk Road context. Let's talk about the exact moment Dimash went from being a regional superstar to an absolute global sensation. That massive pivot happened in China on Hunan TV's hit competition show, Singer 2017. This wasn't a talent show for amateurs, it was a high-stakes arena featuring established industry professionals. It provided Dimash with a massive captive audience he needed to trigger a viral explosion around the world. His debut in the very first episode is now considered a legendary television moment. He performed Daniel Balavoin's fiercely difficult French track, Sus d'une terrien, en détresse. The sheer shock of watching him effortlessly traverse multiple, extreme vocal registers while conveying such profound emotional depth in a foreign language completely captivated the Chinese public and international critics. He took first place that night, and the video immediately went viral. He proved it wasn't a fluke the very next week, dominating episode 2 and securing another first-place finish with Opera 2, showcasing his absolute mastery of the countertenor range. Throughout the season, Dimash used the platform as a masterclass in vocal versatility. He delivered powerful rock energy with Queen's The Show Must Go On, and proved his dedication to the local audience by singing Late Autumn in Mandarin. By episode 6, he was delivering an emotional powerhouse performance of Adagio that earned him another first-place ranking, and even caught the attention and praise of Lara Fabian herself. He later tackled high-difficulty Western pop standards like All By Myself, and even pulled off the impossible, synthesized cinematic vocals of the diva dance from The Fifth Element. But his success in China was about so much more than just mind-blowing vocal mechanics. It was actually a massive, symbolic victory for cultural exchange. In episode 7, Dimash stepped onto that massive Chinese stage and performed Dai Di Dao, a traditional Kazakh song proudly introducing the dombra and the rich cultural heritage of the Great Steppe to millions of viewers. He further cemented his artistry in episode 10 by performing his own original composition, Unforgettable Day, before wrapping up the finals with a tribute to his primary influence, Michael Jackson. Consistently ranking in the top 3 week after week, Dimash ultimately finished the competition as the runner-up. However, the exposure he gained was the real prize. Racking up billions of views across platforms like Weibo and YouTube, Singer 2017 didn't just make him a pop star, it officially transformed him into a global cultural ambassador for Kazakhstan.
No, why I don't want to take my glasses.
No.
No. Because it's...
In a way, his voice becomes more than just an instrument. It becomes a bridge. Perfect pitch, another detail that really deepens the story of Dimash Kudaibergen, is something most casual listeners don't immediately notice. But it explains a lot of what you hear when he sings. His absolute pitch, often called perfect pitch. From a very young age, his parents, both trained musicians, and his early teachers began noticing something unusual. Dimash wasn't just singing melodies back correctly, he was identifying notes with precision without any reference. If you played a random note on a piano, he could tell you exactly what it was. F, G, C, instantly, and then reproduce it on command. That's the defining trait of perfect pitch. Now, on paper, that might sound like a neat musical trick. In reality, it's a massive cognitive and auditory advantage, especially at the level Dimash operates on. Perfect pitch allows him to lock onto pitch with extreme accuracy, even in complex live environments where monitoring isn't perfect, reproduce melodies exactly as intended, not approximations but precise tonal replication.
Technical vocal morphology, a science of the voice. To really get the full picture of Dimash, you have to look closely at the pure, unbelievable science behind his voice. Imagine trying to arrange a complex vocal track where you need the deep resonance of a bass, the steady warmth of a baritone, the soaring energy of a tenor, and the piercing, delicate highs of a soprano. Normally, you would need to cast an entire choir to pull that off. With Dimash, you only need one vocalist in the booth. He is the ultimate vocal chameleon, possessing an almost superhuman range that stretches all the way from the second octave to the eighth. What makes him so captivating to listen to is his ability to effortlessly inhabit all of those different classical roles within the duration of a single song, shifting characters and tones without missing a beat.
I'm not called to. Real man.
Here are micro-errors that most singers wouldn't even notice, which helps him self-correct in real time. Navigate huge interval jumps, like going from a low register to a high note, without searching for the pitch. This becomes especially important when you connect it to his insane vocal range. Moving across multiple octaves isn't just physically demanding, it's mentally demanding, because each leap requires exact pitch targeting. With absolute pitch, Dimash doesn't guess those notes, he knows them. There's also a compositional and interpretive layer to this. Singers with perfect pitch often develop a deeper sensitivity to key, harmony, and tonal color. That's why Dimash can subtly adjust how he delivers a phrase depending on the musical context. He's not just hearing the melody, he's hearing how every note fits inside the harmonic structure underneath. And here's something even more interesting. Perfect pitch can sometimes be a double-edged sword. Some musicians with it struggle when songs are transposed into different keys because their brain expects the original pitch. But Dimash shows a high level of adaptability, which suggests he's not just relying on perfect pitch, he's combining it with strong relative pitch skills and rigorous training. Ultimately, this ability feeds into everything else people admire about him. His control, his consistency, his ability to hit extreme notes cleanly, even live, it all traces back, at least in part, to that early foundation. So when you hear him land a note with almost surgical precision, especially after a massive vocal leap, it's not luck and it's not just practice. It's a rare neurological advantage working in perfect sync with years of disciplined training. A musical family, born Dimash Kudaibergen on May 24, 1994, in Aktabe. Dimash Kudaibergen didn't just grow up around music, he was shaped by it from the very beginning. His childhood wasn't the kind where music is something you casually pick up over time. It was already there, woven into daily life, surrounding him in a way that most aspiring singers only encounter much later.
Wow! She's so happiness.
She's so shy.
Don't cry, don't cry. Everything is okay. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Oh my God, I'm 23 years old. 25 years old. Really old. It's not 18. Thank you. Where is my 18 years? When I'm singing, I'm single. I'm 22. I'm not 25. Very old.
The mechanics of how he actually pulls this off come down to his absolute ironclad mastery over 4 distinct vocal registers. He flawlessly navigates the grounding depths of his chest voice, the resonant blend of his head voice, the operatic clarity of his falsetto, and finally that mind-bending stratospheric whistle register. It is not just about the novelty of hitting extreme notes. It is the sheer architectural genius of how he glides between them that turns his technique into pure spectacle. The architecture of the registers. When you break down the actual mechanics of his registers, the sheer scale of what he is doing becomes even more impressive. Starting down in his lower register, Dimash can produce incredibly warm, resonant tones that drop all the way down into the second octave. That is the kind of grounding depth you would normally only expect from a dedicated, classically trained bass or baritone, which you can really feel right in your chest when listening to tracks like The Story of One Sky or Stranger. As he moves up, his rich baritone shines through in songs like Late Autumn and Dididao. But his mid-range and belting voice are where he truly shows off his versatility. He can seamlessly shift from a soft, delicate mix straight into an absolutely massive operatic fourth octave tenor belt. If you want to hear that raw, immense power in action, just listen to the soaring energy he brings to The Show Must Go On, or Screaming. However, it is his mastery of the upper registers that completely separates him from the rest of the industry. Functioning as a countertenor, he delivers flawless, mixed voice power in pieces like Opera 2 and All By Myself, when he pushes even higher into his soprano-like falsetto for breathtaking songs like Ave Maria or his famous rendition of the diva dance, he maintains absolute unerring control well into the 6th octave. He isn't just squeaking out high notes. He is executing complex operatic passages with crystal clarity and intense focused power. Then you have the absolute extreme edge of his arsenal, the whistle register. He uses this deliberately and strategically to avoid vocal strain. But he has proven he can hit and sustain mind-bending notes all the way up into the 8th octave, beautifully demonstrated in performances like Yumatilmas Kun and Kinalama. If you are wondering how that is physically possible, vocal experts suggest it is a perfect storm of genetics. He likely possesses longer, thinner vocal folds, combined with his relentless everyday vocal conditioning. But what really grounds all of this staggering technical mastery is his own mindset. Dimash constantly reminds us that his range is just a tool. For him, hitting those impossible notes means absolutely nothing if he isn't using them to communicate true sincerity and forge a deep, genuine emotional connection with the listener. Artistry and collaborative synergies. Dimash's discography is a masterclass in deliberate crossover strategy, proving that he isn't just an incredible vocalist, but a sharp architect of his own career.
His parents, Kanat Aitbayev and Svetlana Aitbayeva, are both highly respected and honored singers in Kazakhstan, which meant Dimash was exposed to a professional level of artistry from the moment he could understand sound. This wasn't just about hearing songs at home, it was about witnessing rehearsals, understanding stage presence, and absorbing the discipline required to perform at a high level. Through his father, he gained insight into how performances are structured and how artists connect with audiences on a larger cultural stage, while his mother's influence helped shape his emotional expression and vocal sensitivity. Because of this environment, music never felt like something external to him. It wasn't a skill he had to discover later in life, it was part of his identity. While most children are still figuring out what they enjoy, Dimash was already internalizing complex musical ideas, training his ear, and developing a sense of control over his voice. He was constantly surrounded by different styles, from traditional Kazakh music to classical and contemporary influences, which quietly built the foundation for the versatility he would later become known for. What this kind of upbringing creates is not just a talented singer, but an artist with deeply rooted discipline and awareness. For Dimash, excellence wasn't something distant or intimidating, it was normal, and that shows in the way he performs even today. There's a level of precision, control, and intention in his voice that doesn't come from talent alone, but from a lifetime spent in an environment where music was not just a passion, but a way of life. Breakout on Singer 2017, Dimash's true international breakthrough came in 2017, when he stepped onto the stage of Singer 2017, a move that would completely change the trajectory of his career. Up until that point, Dimash Kudaibergen was already highly trained and recognized in his home region, but largely unknown to the wider global audience. That changed almost overnight. What made Singer 2017 so significant is the format itself. This wasn't a beginner talent show. It was a high-level competition featuring established professional vocalists, many of whom already had strong fan bases across Asia.
Ты понимаешь, в чем прикол? Какой ловкий!
His entire musical catalogue is a testament to his desire to completely tear down borders. Instead of staying safely in one lane, he actively seeks out world-renowned collaborators to build a repertoire that spans across multiple languages and completely different stylistic universes. Just look at his long-standing creative partnership with the legendary Russian composer Igor Krutoy. Together they have crafted absolute symphonic masterpieces like Love of Tired Swans, Olympico, and Ave Maria. These specific tracks are brilliant moves for his brand. They allow Dimash to unleash the full force of his strict classical training, but package it within a massive cinematic pop framework that hits right at the heart of a broad, global audience. The real genius in his trajectory, however, is how he carefully orchestrated his expansion into Western markets. He didn't just throw out a standard English pop track and hope for the best. He teamed up with heavy hitters like Walter Afanasieff, the Grammy-winning producer famous for shaping some of Celine Dion's most iconic hits. Their 2025 collaboration on the highly anticipated track, Love's Not Over Yet, was an incredibly sophisticated, highly produced pivot, seamlessly translating his unique vocal architecture into the competitive realm of Western pop. And just when you think you have his style pinned down, he completely flips the script. In 2023, he linked up with the Turkish DJ Burak Yeter to drop the track Weekend. This wasn't just a casual feature, it marked his formal, explosive entry into electronic dance music. This move opened up an entirely new demographic for him, taking his voice from grand, seated concert halls straight to the massive, high-energy stages of major EDM events like Serbia's Exit Festival. Every single collaboration is a calculated, brilliant step toward total global saturation, showing exactly how a performer can evolve without ever losing their artistic core. Significant original compositions and lyrics. It is also crucial to remember that Dimash isn't just a voice for hire. He is a deeply thoughtful songwriter and composer in his own right, constantly using his platform to push profound philosophical and social messages. A perfect example of this is his 2022 release, The Story of One Sky. Featuring lyrics by Lilia Vinogradova, this track isn't your standard radio hit. It is a massive, 12-minute neoclassical opus. Paired with a sweeping cinematic music video, the entire project serves as an intense artistic plea for global peace and religious tolerance. Then you have deeply personal original works like Unforgettable Day and Omir, which translates to life. With these tracks, he proves his unique ability to craft melodies that perfectly capture the essence of the Kazakh spirit, while still tapping into emotions that anyone, anywhere in the world, can universally relate to. If you look at the timeline of his discography, it perfectly maps out his evolution as a truly global artist. Back in 2018, he was releasing massive tracks like the Russian hit Love of Tired Swans, alongside his key collaborator Igor Krutoy, as well as the English anthem Screaming. The following year, in 2019, he dropped his digital album ID, a multilingual project backed by several prominent Chinese producers. As the years went on, his sound continued to diversify. We already touched on his 2023 jump into English EDM with Burak Yeter on the track Weekend. He kept expanding that Western English language repertoire in 2024 with When I've Got You, collaborating with Mitro Gordon. By 2025, he was fully locked into high-level Western pop production, delivering tracks like Fire with Reese Morgan and, of course, the highly sophisticated Love's Not Over Yet with the legendary Walter Afanasieff. Every release is a calculated step, proving he can conquer virtually any genre or language he sets his mind to. The Deers fandom, a global sociological phenomenon. To truly round out the full story of Dimash, you have to look at the people standing behind him. You simply cannot talk about his meteoric rise without talking about his fan base, affectionately known as the Deers. But this isn't your standard, run-of-the-mill audience. They operate much more like a decentralized, highly organized global diplomatic corps. We are talking about millions of intensely dedicated individuals mobilized across more than 120 official fan clubs worldwide. They do not just passively stream his music. They actively translate his works into dozens of languages to ensure his message crosses every possible border. They pool their resources to finance massive, high-profile advertising campaigns in iconic locations like Times Square, and they consistently coordinate large-scale international philanthropic efforts entirely in his name. It is the exact kind of grassroots, global mobilization that most industry marketing teams can only dream of capturing.
Oh, very good! You're very good.
Really, I don't need this. Because I'm with fans together.
Walking into that environment as a relatively unknown foreign artist, especially from Kazakhstan, meant Dimash had to prove himself immediately, and on a very demanding stage. And he didn't just prove himself, he dominated the conversation. From his very first performance, his vocal acrobatics and emotional delivery caught both the judges and the audience off guard. Performances like SO's D'un Terrien en Détresse became viral moments, not just because of the extreme high notes, but because of how controlled and expressive they were. People weren't just reacting to range. They were reacting to something they hadn't quite seen before, a singer who could blend classical technique, pop sensibility, and theatrical storytelling all in one performance. Week after week, he continued to push boundaries. He experimented with languages, styles, and vocal techniques, keeping audiences guessing every time he stepped on stage. Even in a competition filled with strong vocalists, he managed to stand out as something entirely different, almost like an outlier in the system. By the end of the season, he finished as the runner-up, but the ranking almost became irrelevant.
Let me sing it together one song, okay? Just one part. Don't approach me, don't. Great! Thank you very much.
What makes this massive community dynamic so fascinating, however, is the profound mutual respect it is built upon. The relationship between Dimash and the Deers is deeply rooted in shared core values of love, peace, and cross-cultural exchange. Despite his superhuman vocal abilities and skyrocketing global fame, Dimash constantly grounds himself in absolute humility. He frequently tells his audience that he considers himself completely ordinary, always shifting the credit for his staggering success directly onto the unwavering support of his fans and the rich heritage of his homeland. That genuine, grounded humility has fostered a fierce, almost unprecedented level of loyalty. You only need to look at his 2019 Our Now Envoy concert at the Barclays Center in New York to see the proof. The sheer gravitational pull of his artistry and that deep, authentic connection with his audience brought thousands of fans traveling from 63 different countries into one single room. It is a brilliant testament to how a performer can build a self-sustaining, deeply engaged community that goes far beyond just consuming music, turning a fandom into a genuine global movement. Philanthropic impact of the Deers. What really sets the Deers apart is how they have completely institutionalized philanthropy as their primary way of honoring him. They aren't just sending fan mail or buying merchandise, they are actively mobilizing to change the world in his name. Take China, for example. Through the Million Forest Project, fans planted over 3,900 trees to create the Dimash Love Forest, directly fighting back against regional desertification. In 2021, Deers across France and Eurasia pooled their resources to support the Ayala Rehabilitation Center, right in Dimash's hometown of Aktobe, stepping up to supply them with crucial, life-saving medical equipment like oxygen concentrators. And the momentum hasn't slowed down at all. Just recently, in 2026, his Latin American fan base organized to donate saplings specifically to help restore the forests of Patagonia. It is a stunning illustration of just how far-reaching and deeply altruistic this global movement has become. It proves that the impact of Dimash goes far beyond the music itself, inspiring a ripple effect of genuine goodwill across the globe, humanitarian diplomacy, and global ambassadorship. As we look at his career progressing into the mid-2020s, the full story of Dimash takes a truly profound turn. He didn't just settle for being a phenomenal vocalist and performer, he actively evolved into a significant, highly influential figure in international humanitarian diplomacy. This incredible transition reached a major peak in December 2025. During a high-profile council session in Geneva, the United Nations International Organization for Migration, or the IOM, officially elevated him to the prestigious role of Global Goodwill Ambassador. Stepping into this position, Dimash utilizes his extraordinary voice for a cause far larger than entertainment. He actively leverages his massive global platform to fiercely advocate for the human rights of displaced migrants, while simultaneously shining a critical spotlight on the dark, urgent realities of global human trafficking. However, what makes his humanitarian work so impactful is that it goes far beyond simply holding an honorary UN title. Dimash consistently puts real action behind his words, generously funneling substantial portions of his own concert proceeds directly into disaster relief and critical healthcare initiatives. A perfect example of this deep-rooted philanthropy occurred in 2021, when he partnered with the non-governmental organization project CURE, to make a staggering $500,000 donation, specifically designed to bolster Kazakhstan's healthcare infrastructure during a time of immense need. Beyond human welfare, he is equally passionate about environmental conservation. He has become a highly visible and vocal advocate for the Kazakh Snow Leopard Foundation, fighting to protect the endangered wildlife of his region. By dedicating his time, his global influence, and his personal resources to these vital causes, Dimash has beautifully aligned his entire public identity with a deeply authentic commitment to preserving both human dignity and the precious ecological heritage of his homeland. It is the ultimate proof that for him, the music is merely the starting point of his impact on the world. If you look at the exact timeline of his humanitarian evolution, it builds with incredible momentum, almost like the perfect final act of a deeply compelling story. His transition from an entertainer to an advocate wasn't a sudden leap, but a steady, deliberate expansion of his platform. It really took shape back in 2020, when he officially stepped into the role of an ambassador for Project CURE, dedicating his growing influence to the critical distribution of life-saving medical equipment. As his global reach continued to expand, so did the weight of his responsibilities on the world stage. By 2024, the United Nations International Organization for Migration officially recognized his unique ability to connect with people, appointing him as their regional goodwill ambassador to champion crucial migration advocacy specifically across Central Asia. But the narrative didn't stop there. The year 2025 became a monumental chapter that truly solidified his lasting legacy off the stage. The IM elevated his status entirely, naming him a global goodwill ambassador and shifting his focus to championing international human rights on a massive, worldwide scale. And it wasn't just the international community taking notice of this shift. That very same year, his homeland proudly honored him with the People's Favorite Award in Kazakhstan. It served as a beautiful, public recognition of the sheer impact he has made, proving that the full story of Dimash is about far more than just a 6-octave range. Whether he is hitting an impossible note or fighting for human dignity, he commands the world's attention and uses it to make a genuine difference. The producer phase, Voice Beyond Horizon, 2026. The year 2026 brings us to the latest, and perhaps most significant, milestone in the complete story of Dimash. He didn't just remain a performer, he fully stepped into the shoes of an executive producer and a dedicated mentor. On February 5th, 2026, he premiered a massive international music project called Voice Beyond Horizon on China's Hunan TV and the Mango TV app. This was a beautifully symbolic, full-circle moment, marking a triumphant return to the exact same network that originally launched his international career 9 years prior. Voice Beyond Horizon was deliberately built to serve as a literal cultural bridge connecting China, Kazakhstan, and the rest of the world. Taking on the heavy lifting as the show's initiator, advisor, and executive producer, Dimash handpicked 8 incredible vocalists from incredibly diverse countries, including Serbia, Italy, Malaysia, and Kyrgyzstan. He then took this international crew on a staggering 7,436-kilometer journey straight across the most breathtaking, rugged natural landscapes Kazakhstan has to offer. The whole concept brilliantly blended music, travel, and deep cultural immersion, successfully introducing a massive global audience to the true heart, soul, and sound of the Eurasian steppe. The first season wrapped up with a spectacular finale in Astana on April 23, 2026, and the international press absolutely raved about how well it fostered genuine, cross-border artistic dialogue. But the true significance of this project is what it represents for Dimash as an artist. It proves that he has officially evolved, making the profound shift from competing for his own spotlight to actively opening doors and creating opportunities for the next generation of global talent. Opening doors for new names in world music, a mission he considers deeply meaningful. Live performance evolution and world tours. When you actually experience Dimash live on stage, it is an entirely different level of spectacle. In an era where so many pop stars rely heavily on backing tracks and lip-syncing, he flat out refuses to use pre-recorded vocals, which is a staggering display of technical stamina, considering the insanely demanding, multi-octave material he belts out night after night. Since his very first Unforgettable Day solo tour back in 2016, he has transformed his live shows from standard concerts into massive, immersive cultural experiences. He masterfully blends the grandeur of a full symphonic orchestra with the raw, acoustic sounds of traditional Kazakh folk instruments, all wrapped up in cutting-edge, modern stage technology. This formula has allowed him to pack out some of the most prestigious venues on the planet, selling out massive arenas from the O2 in London and the Barclays Center in New York, all the way to the Auditorio Nacional in Mexico City. His massive Stranger World Tour, which ran from 2022 to 2025, was a huge chapter in this global expansion, particularly because it marked his triumphant entry into Latin America. He respects his audience so much that he even recorded a beautiful Spanish-language tribute track, El Amor en Ti, specifically to honor his fiercely passionate fans in that region, and his trajectory just keeps aiming higher. By 2026, he was sharing the stage in Budapest with absolute classical titans like Placido Domingo and Stepan Hauser, proving he can stand shoulder to shoulder with the most legendary figures in music. Looking at the big picture, the entire arc of Dimash Kudaibergen's life reads exactly like a beautifully crafted modern epic. He started out rooted in the deep traditions of Oktober, raised by his grandparents to honor the nomadic history of the Great Steppe, and eventually rose to the global stage as a UN Goodwill Ambassador. Through it all, he has fiercely protected his cultural integrity and technical excellence, never once selling out for fleeting viral pop trends. His entire career is a masterclass in perfect synthesis. He took a mind-bending 6-octave range and anchored it with strict bel canto training. He seamlessly blended ancient Domra melodies with massive, modern electronic beats. Most importantly, he took his deep, personal national pride and channeled it into actionable, global humanitarian concern. As he continues to push forward with his doctoral research and steps further into the world of executive production, Dimash proves he is so much more than just a vocalist. He is a living, breathing bridge between civilizations. He uses the universal language of music not just to entertain, but to unite millions of people around the world, sharing a timeless message of peace, love, and the incredible depth of the human spirit.
What mattered was the exposure. The show had introduced him to millions of viewers across China and beyond, and clips of his performances began spreading rapidly online, reaching audiences in Europe, the United States, and other parts of Asia. In many ways, Singer 2017 didn't just give him a platform. It revealed him to the world. It transformed him from a regional talent into a global phenomenon, setting the stage for international tours, a rapidly growing fan base, and a career that would no longer be confined by geography. That moment marked the shift where Dimash stopped being a singer from Kazakhstan and became something much bigger, a global voice that people everywhere suddenly wanted to hear. The 6-octave man. When Dimash Kudaibergen stepped onto the stage of the world's best in 2019, he wasn't just entering another competition. He was introducing himself to a completely new audience, one that for many viewers in the United States had never experienced anything like him before, and he made sure that introduction was unforgettable. His audition performance was nothing short of explosive. From the very first notes, it was clear that this wasn't a typical contestant trying to impress judges with a strong voice. What unfolded instead was a full-scale vocal showcase, where he moved effortlessly across registers, blending power, control, and emotion in a way that felt almost unreal. He didn't just sing, he demonstrated the full architecture of his voice, climbing from deep, resonant lows to piercing, crystal-clear high notes that seemed to defy the limits of what a human voice can do. The reaction in the room was immediate. Judges and audience members weren't just applauding, they were visibly stunned. You could see it in their expressions: confusion, disbelief, excitement. It was the kind of performance that makes people question what they thought they knew about singing. And that's where the nickname was born. After witnessing his extraordinary range and control, he was dubbed the 6-octave man, a title that quickly stuck and followed him far beyond the show itself. It wasn't just a catchy label, it was a way for audiences to process what they had just heard. Because when someone demonstrates that kind of vocal span live in real time, you need a phrase that captures the scale of it. But what made that moment even more important wasn't just the nickname, it was the exposure. Much like Singer 2017 had done in Asia, the world's best opened the door to a broader Western audience. Clips of his auditions spread rapidly online, drawing in viewers who had never encountered his music before and instantly turning them into fans. In that single performance, Dimash didn't just compete, he redefined expectations. He showed that vocal ability could be both technically extreme and emotionally compelling at the same time. And for many people watching, that was the moment they realized they weren't just looking at another talented singer, they were witnessing something genuinely rare. Multi-instrumentalist beyond the voice that gets most of the attention, Dimash Kudaibergen is also a multi-instrumentalist, and the dimension of his artistry plays a bigger role in his music than people often realize. He is proficient in instruments like the piano, drums, and the dombra, each of which contributes to a different layer of his musical identity. The piano is arguably his strongest instrumental base. It's where composition, harmony, and structure come together. Playing piano gives Dimash a deep understanding of chord progressions, key changes and musical phrasing, which directly feeds into how he interprets songs vocally. When he sings, you can often hear that instrumentalist mindset. He's not just following a melody, he's interacting with the entire arrangement.